All right, man. We in the building, man. As you can obviously see, man, we are in the building. This is Coach Bay, and this is Mind Muscle Mastery Podcast. Uh, oh, y'all a small apology, man, because this podcast actually should have been done yesterday. And we ran into a ton of uh software trouble, man, electrical trouble. Had to go spend some money, man, but that's all right because uh I like what I'm doing, man. Actually, I love what I'm doing because I'm doing it for a reason, man. And when you got a cause, man, when you got a reason, man, that's a hell of a motivation. That's a hell of a battery. So for me, man, being black, being a personal trainer, being educated as far as a certified personal trainer, exercise recovery specialist, life coach, supplement specialist, and a nutritionist, certified, it is my duty, right? It's my duty to teach it and bring it, but specifically in this trying time, right? In this time where we have an administration who is running the US, uh, and it's all questionable, man. And to be honest, it can get fearful, and that's just the facts, man. You know what I mean? So, you know, I get on here, man, and I talk about the state of black health, man, the state of health in general, but the state of black health I put emphasis on because the black nation suffers from so many diseases, man, disproportionately from other races. If you follow the podcast, every week, man, we talk about health. That's one of the first things or second things we talk about. We talk about black health. And today is a special podcast, man. Today is a special podcast. If you've been looking at our promotional work, today is, man, Diabetes Decoded. It is the eighth episode. We are going to do Diabetes Decoded 8th, 9th, and 10th episode. And I'm gonna tell you, man, after studying and studying in depth for this podcast, for this lesson, man, I was shocked. I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot during this study, man. I knew so much about diabetes and what being active could do for your control of diabetes. But as well, uh, you know, uh, I just found out so much more, and I found out that what I thought as far as, the amount of control you can have, over diabetes by being active was correct. You can just about control this thing, man. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. Uh, Take a short break, man. We got a guest actually coming up, man, in the last 15 minutes of the podcast. Uh, he is actually the owner of Dash and Chef, man, down there in St. Louis, man, a good friend of mine, man. Uh, been down some of those roads, man, with me, some of those dark roads, only to come out to the light, man, to where we are today. The brother, man, has graduated college with multiple degrees and is now a chef, not only for the St. Louis Cardinals, man, but in, one of the most prominent restaurants in downtown St. Louis. So Dash and Chef owner, man, Omari will be here later, man, and we will discuss, you know, uh, just how, where we came from, man, and what we went through to get to where we are and the values that are lost in our youth today, the lessons that are not being taught by lying uncles and neglectful aunties. You know what I mean? The truth is not being told as it should be, uh, in order to keep our kids, where they need to be. And like last week, I talked about this 20-20-40 parenting, man. We need to go back to nosy parenting and know where your kids are. Mother, don't be afraid, man, of your son, of your daughter, and vice versa. So we're going to take a break, man. We're going to dive off into this Diabetes Decoded, man. Go get your mama, go get your auntie, go get your grandma. Because this one right here, you're going to want to know about, baby. Coach Bay, Mind Muscle Master. All right, man, we back up in here, man. And as you can see on screen, man, this is Diabetes Decoded, episode 8, 9, and 10 will be that. It is utterly important, man, that we address this in the fashion that I'm going to address it, because I'm going to address it in a raw, real fashion that you can understand. The name of the lesson that I'm going to bring is Diabetes Decoded, but the first part of it is demystifying the diagnosis, right? Demystifying the diagnosis, minusing the lies, minusing what you think you know, and we're going to put in what facts are as far as diabetes and how we can control that. How we can take control of diabetes in our life, man, by simply being active. We ain't talking about with needle sticks. We ain't talking about with pills. We talking about simply being active, man, and reading yourself, knowing where you at, you know. So we gonna demystify all that, man. Let's jump into it, man. Lesson one, man, the what. This is about the what, the why, and the cure, man. The what, the why, and the how. You know, this is what I'm gonna break down: the what, the why, and the how as far as diabetes is concerned, man. Because we told a lot of things, but we left out there to fend for ourselves, man, because we don't find out how to deal with diabetes until we got it. When we losing weight and we head to the doctor to find out why, the doctor tells us that we got these precursors for diabetes, then that's when the doctors begin to tell us how to deal with it. Well, I'm gonna tell you how to prevent it. I'm gonna tell you how to prevent it, and if you get it, how to take control of it, man. I'm talking about without finger sticks all day and all that. You know what I mean? Simply by being active, man. You know what I mean? And as far as diabetes is concerned, it affects us, predominantly, man, the black nation. And there's a reason for that. You're gonna find out over the 8, 9, and 10th episode, there's a reason it affects the black man and black woman disproportionately. It is in the gene. My next podcast down the road, we're gonna do one on genes, but in this particular situation, it is not all gene, but it is in our gene. It is in the African gene. That is why we are more susceptible, but there are things in the community that make us more susceptible as well. I'm gonna tell you about it though. So, the what? The what? Demystifying the diagnosis. Right? I'm gonna break it down in a form that you can understand. Your body is running an energy crisis, right? Your body is running an energy crisis, but it is completely fixable, right? So with these diabetes, your body is running an energy crisis that is completely fixable, right? I'm telling you the facts, man. This is Coach Bay. This is Mind Muscle Mastery, right? So your body is running an energy crisis, but it is completely fixable. The what? Diabetes is fundamentally a breakdown in how the body transforms food into energy. Now, follow me closely here. Diabetes is fundamentally a breakdown in how the body transforms food into energy, right? Under normal circumstances, the pancreas releases insulin, a biological key, right? On normal circumstances, the pancreas releases insulin, which is a biological key, right? To let glucose, which is sugar, into your cells, right? So the pancreas releases insulin, which is a biological key. And that key lets sugar into the cells, right? With diabetes, the locks are broken and the keys are missing, right? So insulin that is the biological key that tells the body when to let sugar in. With diabetes, all that it don't function right. Right? It don't function right. Under normal circumstances, the pancreas would release insulin, which is the biological key to let glucose sugar into the cell. With diabetes, the locks are broken or the keys are missing. Right? So the body can't tell, or insulin can't tell the pancreas to let sugar in because the keys are broken when you have diabetes, right? So we know there's a diabetes 1, there's a diabetes 2. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Now I'm gonna repeat this because I want y'all to follow along and understand it, right? And I want y'all to carry this to your people, right? Your body is running on an energy crisis. This is diabetes, but it is completely fixable. The what? Diabetes is fundamentally a breakdown in how the body transforms food into energy. Right? Under normal circumstances, the pancreas, right, releases insulin, a biological key to let glucose sugar into the cell. With diabetes, the locks are broken or the keys are missing. Right? So two the two distinct types, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, right? Type 1. What we're going to break down first. We're going to break down type 1. Now we got 3 sessions, so we'll get all the way to the 3rd session, which is going to be crazy, bro. It's going to be interesting, bro. It's going to be educational. It is inspiring, man. And shout out to Nip, man, on that work he was doing out there in Cali. So type 1, right? The autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells. There are no keys, right? There are no keys. It can't let sugar in through the pancreas. There are no keys, right? So, well, in this particular type 1, an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells, there are no keys. We know up top that the keys, the biological keys, insulin used to let glucose into the cells. We know that glucose was sugar that insulin is trying to let into the cell, right? We know that insulin is the key that does that. We know now we're learning in type 1, there are no keys, right? So let me break that down. Let's break that down. So type 1 is an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells. There are no keys, right? And the core cellular players, right, to give you the nuts and bolts of how the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells, you need to break down complex medical jargon, which we're going to do, right, into easy, understandable analogy. You know what I mean? So, analogy. That was supposed to have been a bit of fun, but we're in a deadly serious conversation as far as diabetes is concerned, because if not taken care of, I will tell you this: it 9 times out of 10 leads to other disease, heart disease, things of that nature. And if not taken care of, it will kill you. So, type 1, an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells. There are no keys, right? So the core players in that particular episode, an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells, right? So the core players, right? The insulin system, right? The insulin system is like the body security force, right? So the insulin system, it's the body security force. It's got the key. It tells the pancreas when to let sugar into the cells. You know what I mean? It governs that deal, right? So that security force normally protects you from outside invaders like viruses. In type 1 diabetes, it suffers from a communication breakdown, right? So we know that type 1 is an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin cells. And we know that a core player of that, we know that insulin is the body's security force. And normally it protects you from Normally, this outside, this body security force normally protects you from outside invaders, like viruses. In type 1 diabetes, it suffers from a communication breakdown, right? Beta cells, right? The insulin factory. Beta cells are the insulin factory, right? High specialized cells located in tiny clusters called insulins of Langerhans inside the pancreas. Their only job is to manufacture and release insulin. They're inside the pancreas where insulin is formed. Uh, these beta cells, right? They are highly specialized cells located in tiny clusters called insulins or Langerhans inside the pancreas. Their only job is to manufacture insulin. These particular cells, right? Now, remember, there's a miscommunication with the insulin, right? It's all fucked up. It's not communicating properly. It's not allowing sugar into the cells, right? It's not communicating properly, right? And so these beta cells, right? These beta cells, which are considered the insulin factory inside the pancreas, highly specialized cells, their only job is to release insulin, right? But the T cells, this is where the miscommunication comes in, right? Because your T cells normally fight off disease, right? This is where the miscommunication come in at, right? The T cells, which are considered the misinformed soldiers, right? They are the misinformed soldiers. They cause this communication error, right? A specific type of white blood cell, that's what T cells are. A specific type of white blood cell in a healthy body that hunt down infection. This is what T cells do in a healthy body. They hunt down infection, right? But in a type 1 diabetic where communication is off, right? Where communication is all off, uh, these T cells, they get confused and launch a targeted strike against the beta cell. Right. So this is the miscommunication, the misinformed soldiers. Right. This is where it all goes wrong with type 1. Remember, type 1 is an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin cells. And now we are breaking down why it mistakenly destroys its own insulin cells, right? Because the body security force, which is the insulin system. Let's get that clear. The body security force is the insulin system. That's just how important the insulin system is in the pancreas, right? Normally protects you from outside invaders like viruses, right? In a type 1 diabetic, it suffers from communication breakdown, right? So the immune system, right? And I think I was miswording that. That's why I want to go back over that. The immune system, which is the body security force, right? The immune system. This is where white cells come in. And white cells have to do with the immune system. The immune system in a diabetic, in a normal individual, the immune system normally kills off disease, runs around killing off disease, right? Or viruses. In a diabetic, in a type 1, it suffers from communication breakdown, right? Those misinformed soldiers, right? There's a communication breakdown with the immune system in a type 1 diabetic. Those misinformed soldiers, the T cells that come from the immune system, that work with the immune system, they attack the beta cells. Now, we know that the beta cells are in charge of producing insulin. That these are specialized cells in the pancreas. All they do is manufacture insulin. And the misinformed soldiers in the type 1 diabetic is going after them, man. They knocking them off. They knocking the beta cells off that make the insulin. Right? So that's the problem. Right? This is a type 1, right? This is type 1, right? So we know that it mistakenly, right? So we broke some of that down. We understand a little bit, but let's break down more. The mechanism of the mistake. And we know that it mistakenly attacked. All right? We know that it mistakenly attacked and destroys its own insulin producing cells. Mistakenly, right? So we broke down the core players in that mistake. Let's break down the mechanism of the mistake, right? Let's break it down. So, the mechanism of the mistake, right? Following along with it, right? You know that type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin. There are no key. Know who the core players of that. Know that a core player is the immune system, the body security force, which normally in a healthy individual, right, would normally protects you from viruses, right? But in a type 1 diabetic, it suffers from a miscommunication problem, right? The immune system, right? And we know that beta cells, right, which is a major factor, they create insulin. That is all they do inside the pancreas, specialized cells. But we know there's some soldiers that come along, right? The T cells that come from the immune system, right? They are misinformed. They think the beta cells are viruses. They attack them, right? They attack those cells, right? A specific type of white blood cell is the T cell. In a healthy body, they hunt down infections. In type 1 diabetes, they get confused and launch targeted strikes against the beta cells. The beta cells is what makes your insulin. It's just the problem. Type 1 diabetic. So we're going to break down the mechanism of the mistake. But let's take a short break. Let's take a short break. I know that was a lot to take in, but it's real. Tell your mama, tell your friends. Mind Muscle Master. Okay, so the mechanism of the mistake, man, the mechanism of the mistake, right? So genetic predisposition, this is the mechanism, right? This is how, the mistake comes about, right? Genetic predisposition. Now, I want you to understand something, right? Listen to Coach Bay. I want you to understand that your DNA provides the baseline code, right? For diabetes. Your DNA provides the baseline code. Now, it's not just your DNA, but it provides the baseline code. And we're going to dive more into that in the future episode of this series, because that has a lot to do with everything. Uh, you know, your genetic predisposition. And that means if your nationality, black, white, how are you made up? Your genetics, right? African nation, European nation, you know. So understand that now, write that, check that off, that your genetic predisposition does have something to do with it. It is the baseline code. You know, certain genes make a person's immune system more likely to get confused. Understand that? Certain genes make a person's immune system more likely to get confused. Right? But genes alone do not cause the disease. I just said that. You know, uh, DNA provides the baseline code. Certain genes make a person's immune system more likely to get confused, but genes alone do not cause the disease. Pay attention, man. Now, follow me. Environmental trigger. This is often a common viral infection, right? Muscular mini-crop, the identity theft. This is the ultimate nut and bolt concept for demystifying the rumor that lifestyle sugar causes type 1 diabetes. When the body fights off the virus, the protein structure of the virus happens to look almost identical to the protein structure of beta cells. Almost identical. The T cells defeat the virus, but they remain on high alert. They spot the pancreas, mistake the beta cells for the virus attack. Right? So they do all this in evidence of the attack, right? The auto antibodies, the footprints that are left after the attack, right? When the body fights a normal virus, it creates antibodies to remember how to fight it next time. In type 1 diabetes, the body creates autoantibodies. These are measurable markers in the blood that prove the immune system is actively destroying its own tissue. Doctors use screenings like those from TrialNet to look for these footprints years before a person actually think. think. Say that again. Doctors use screening, right? There are screenings out there, man, that can look for the footprints of diabetes, look for the footprints, right, of these genetic predispositions. They can look for the footprints years before you ever get close to a diagnosis, right? So this is where the privilege comes in. This is where the money, this is where the disadvantage comes in. Right, because at a younger age, at an age where we develop diabetes, we're not taught about this test. There's no doctor telling us, man, that I want to take this test of you, man, and you're 16 right now. They'll tell me when you're 30 if you're going to have diabetes or if you have this genetic predisposition, this baseline code. Those are things that's not normally offered to us coming up. So we don't know about this stuff. We don't know about diabetes until we get it. We ain't tested early. We ain't told early. When we get it, we told how to deal with it. I'm gonna tell you how to deal with it and prevent it. But understand what I told you today. I broke down part 1, the what. Your body is running an energy crisis, but it is completely fixable. That's how I started off. Right? That's how I started off. The core hook, the body is running an energy crisis, but it is completely fixable. The what? Diabetes is fundamentally a breakdown in how the body transforms food into energy. Under normal circumstances, the pancreas releases insulin, a biological key to let glucose sugar into your cells. With diabetes, the locks are broken or the keys are missing. So it cannot let glucose into the cells, right? Now, when we go down to the description of type 1 diabetic, an autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells. It destroys, we've learned that these are beta cells that it's referring to in the pancreas, specialized cells that only make insulin. But we learned that with this autoimmune condition, which is type 1, that our insulin producing cells, they the autoimmune condition where the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin producing cells. I'm talking about, man, I'm so hyped about this thing, man. I should be breaking it right now down for millions, man. Y'all better take this to your family and take this to your community, right? There are no keys, a metabolic condition where the body still makes insulin. Oh, but there are no keys. So that was type 2. That's connected with part on type 2. So the core players of this, the body mistakenly destroys its own insulin. The core players of that is the immune system, which is considered the body's security force, right? It normally protects you from outside invaders like viruses. In type 1 diabetes, it suffers from a miscommunication problem. From a communication problem, it attacks the beta cells, the insulin factory, which are the beta cells, highly specialized cells in tiny clusters called insulin language inside the pancreas. Their only job is to manufacture and release insulin, and manufacture it and release it. That's what beta cells do, right? We know beta cells manufacture and release insulin in the pancreas, right? Inside the pancreas. T cells, right? These are with the immune system, right? T cells, these are the misinformed soldiers, right? This is where the body, this is where the mistake comes from, right? We're breaking down the mistake, right? So the misinformed soldiers, specific type of white blood cell is the T cells. In a healthy body, they hunt down infections. And in type 1 diabetes, they get confused and launch a targeted strike against the beta cell. Right? So they launch a strike on the very cells that create and release insulin. Right? This is type 1 diabetes. And we learned that part of that mistake, the mechanism, how the mistake even comes about, how the mistake is formed, part of that is the genetic It's a genetic predisposition. And guess who has it? But we'll get into that in the following episode. This is gonna get real interesting, real educational. I hope you uh got something out of today. Uh, so the mistake, man, the genetic predisposition, the listener, you understand that you are the listener. Understand that DNA provides the baseline code. Your DNA, my DNA provides the baseline code, right? Understand as I go on, certain genes make a person's immune system, certain genes make a person's immune system more likely to get confused, right? But genes alone do not cause the disease. There's also an environmental trigger. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the inequality. We'll talk about the lack of access to healthcare, right? The environmental trigger, right? Genetic predisposition. Okay, so the muscular mini tribe, the identity theft. This is the ultimate nuts and bolts concept of demystifying the rumor that lifestyle or sugar causes type 1 diabetes. When the body fights off the virus, so lifestyle or sugar does not cause type 1 diabetes. Learn what does. We've learned about the misled soldiers in the fight against the beta cell. This is when the body fights off a virus, the protein structure of that virus happens to look almost identical to the protein structure of beta cell. So the T cells defeat that virus, but they remain on high alert. They spot the pancreas, take the beta cells for the virus, and attack. Type 1 diabetes. Right? We've learned that. Learned that it's a mistake. We've learned who carries out that mistake. Uh, we've learned part of why we're even susceptible to that mistake. You know that it's an environmental trigger. You know that there's genetic predisposition. So and this is for type 1 diabetes. Right? We haven't got to type 2 yet. We got episode 8, 9, and 10 in this 3-part series. Right. So, you know, we've just broke down the core cellular players, the mechanism of the mistake, the evidence of attack, and taking control. You know, taking control. The truth, it is entirely an internal biological immune medicated state. You know, it's not on you. It's on genetics. It's on the environment. It's on the lack of resources. So, who has the pre-genetic disposition? Who's it affect the most? We already know that we disproportionately are affected by diabetes. So you're finding out just with me talking who may have uh the genetic predisposition. Environmental, you should hear me. You know who I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking. You know why I'm talking. An environmental factor to diabetes. Right. I grew up in the hood. You know, so I understand the inequalities. I understand the lack of resources. You know, I still get mad today with certain medical situations because, I still think, with insurance and everything that they still don't act or treat you like they really should. So imagine without insurance. Imagine without insurance. That's why it is utterly important, man, that we learn. Our grandmothers taught us this. The Indians taught us this. It's utterly important that we learn to take care of ourselves. It's utterly important that we be active. It's utterly important that we are healthy, man, and prepared, to take care of our family, man, to protect our family, our queens, and our children. You know, uh, we got an interview coming up, man, with Chef O. You know what I mean? Man, this is a big series, a big 3-part series, man. And I hope you digested that first part, man, and tune in for the next 2, 3 series, man, because we're gonna break down. I'm gonna tell you more about the environment. I'm gonna tell you more about the environmental trip. I'm gonna tell you more about uh uh the genetic predisposition. I'm gonna tell you why, these factors affect us, you know, in the next series. So uh right now, man, let's take a break. Gonna get ready for this interview uh with the chef. You know what I mean? This is mine. This is Behind Muscle Mastery Man podcast. This is Diabetes Decoded, baby. It's Diabetes Decoded. We demystifying it. We killing the lies, man. We becoming active and we taking control back of our health. This is Coach Bay. Let's take a break. Man, we are back in the building, man. And as I promised, I promised, man, that we was going to have a king in the building. And as I promised, man, we got the chef, man. We got the ordained chef, man. I'm talking about real life. You understand me? I'm talking about Black Garden, baby. I'm talking about worldwide, man. This is my partner right here, man. You know what I mean? And for you young men out there, man, you young Black men, you young white boys, man, you young kids out there, man, we are, evidence, man. You know what I mean? We are evidence, man, that you can bounce back after mistakes, man. We are evidence that a bad decision, man, is not the last decision, man. You know what I mean? This podcast is about that positivity, man, and we are that positivity made manifest. You know what I mean? What's going on? What's going on, Chef?
Hey, what's happening,
Man, the
lovely
chef is in the
people? What's
building, man.
happening?
The chef is in the building, man.
Yeah.
So what's been going on, man? Talk to us, man, about what's been going on, man. What you got going?
Oh, well, just another day in the dog, and that's another day in the life thereof. Yeah, took this job with this medical resort company. It's pretty good, pretty cush.
Okay.
Up until maybe about a month ago, they decided to cut my position throughout the whole entire company.
Yeah.
So everybody that was in the sous chef position
Right.
no longer has that position.
Okay.
They either don't have a job or they have to resort to hourly cook, which is considerably lower
What you
than
ain't
what they were
doing.
getting paid as salary
Right.
per hour. So it is what it is. With one of the situations that I've always been in is knowing people in the industry. See, I don't burn bridges with individuals that I've worked for or worked with throughout the industry, right?
That's right.
And that kind of puts a palette together of well-known people who know who you are. You get what I'm saying?
No doubt.
And with that being said, it kind of allows you to move when you need to move when situations like this happen. Okay, so long story short, I had five different job offers on the table inside of 2 weeks after them telling me about that.
Man,
So
God
it's
is good, man.
it's nothing. It's
God is
nothing.
good, man. You know what I mean? I'm talking about, man, God is good.
Yeah, absolutely. However,
Go ahead.
It's to a point that now where, as opposed to this to keep coming happening, because the last job I was at, the same thing happened. They weren't making enough money, and they had to do cuts, and they started with the kitchen.
You cough, man.
That's one of the few.
Man.
That's one of the few things that they do when it comes to job cuts. They always start with the kitchen. So the unfortunate factor is, hey guys, hold on one second. No,
It's real life.
we got papers, it's not spares.
Talking about real life. All right.
What?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. In the back, in the walk in. But now they ain't gonna be in the freezer. They're gonna be in the walk in. You got to give me. I'm in the middle. I got this podcast, but I got you. Okay, now you good. So anyway, guys, it's come to a point in time where it's like you have to get behind yourself, right? You got to push yourself, right?
Absolutely. I
have been lacking on Dash and Chef for the last year and a half because I have been focused on trying to work with everybody else.
Right.
All that. So forgive me, guys. I'm still at work. My bad. But it's just one of those things where I got to stop putting everybody else's needs and wants ahead of my own. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? It's time to get back to Dash and Chef. It's time to build that brand. I took almost 2 years off doing that. I still do gigs throughout the country through the clients I've already acquired,
Yeah.
but it's time to grow. So I don't have these situations anymore where it's like, okay, well, hey, we gotta get rid of somebody. Unfortunately, Chef, we gotta get rid of you. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna get rid of myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely. I absolutely know what you mean, man. You know what I mean? It's one thing about it, man, it be so much going on, you know what I mean? And we put so much in our circle of influence, man. I talk about that a lot. You know what I mean? When I talk about Stephen Covey, I talk about our circle of influence, man. So many things inside our circle of influence. Half of them for somebody else, half of them for this person, some of them for us, some of them for something we seen on TV, some for something that we feel like we guilty about. There's so many things in this circle, bro, but we can only
Mhm.
deal with so many things, you know what I mean? And everything else and anything else is overwhelming. You gotta cut something else out to deal with everything else. So we wind up, servants like us, we wind up cutting out ourselves. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? For the sake of everybody else, we'll cut out ourselves. And one thing about it, the pure in heart, they give love and we don't demand it in return. You know what I mean? And the servant is worthy of his hire. You know what I mean? We serve
hmm
and work
hmm
hard and serve gladly. You know what I mean? God's first den man. You see what I'm saying? So the servant is worthy of his hire. So that's why, God seems fit and said, here, man, here go 5 offers on the way that you principled yourself through life, not burning bridges, and on top of the ethic that you have and the belief that you have. You see what I'm saying? Here go 5 offers, you know. When some people can't get one, man, you know what I mean? You
that
got
part,
some you got
that
some
part.
grads coming out, man, with 2, 3, 4 college degrees, more than what you got. And shout out to the king, man. I told y'all earlier, man, the king is educated, man. We are real life, man. We are real life, man. For you, like I spoke about earlier, you young brothers and sisters out there, man, who worry about a bad decision being the last decision, man. We are evidence that that is not true. That is not a fact, man. We've made bad decisions and we stand before you, man, as man accomplished. You see what I'm saying? And man that desire, man, to teach you, to lead you. So young man in the community, young man in the hood, man, we're here for you. Young man without a father or without an uncle that are telling the truth, we here for you.
Hang on a second. Excuse me. Uh, that was yours? Oh, okay. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Real life, man. So uh and that's just, that's what we always wanna portray, man. We always wanna let the listeners know, man, that it's always like that, man. Mind, muscle mastery, man. There's a route to becoming a master. There's
Absolutely.
classrooms, there's classes of learning, life classes of learning. I ain't talking about necessarily school. There's life classes of learning you got to go through, man. You understand? And it one of those points of mastery, man, is decision making. You hear me speak about, man, one decision could be, if you make that decision, without any type of thought, young man, slow down. Because just as this decision, a bad decision, ain't got to be your last decision, but a decision that is a last deal. I'm
Yeah.
talking about playing with your life, taking a life, things of that nature, man. Out there playing with games that you don't want to disappear from your family.
Nope.
So those type of things, man, are just things that have to be cut out, man. And as you see the king live, man, you see the king on this recording at work making it happen, man. And that's how it goes down. I was just doing that earlier. So, this is how it goes down, but we still bring it to you. So King, what's dancing self, man? Dancing self, man, it's a big deal. You know what I mean? I remember when you first brought it down, I remember we was working on logos. You know what I mean? I've seen you over on social media all through the community making things happen. You know what I mean? So what's the plan? What's the future plan for
So the
Dancing
future
Self?
plan is in 5 years I'm supposed to have my own food truck. It should have been before that. Putting up the capital. That's the reason why I was still doing those jobs and doing the festivals and doing the events, the farmers market, things like
Yes.
that,
Yeah,
was to get my name out there.
absolutely.
Well, when I worked at Grace Meat and 3, that was the last restaurant that I was working at, so when y'all came to. I was on this. influencers, food influencers, not website, but his page though. I was on an Instagram page. Long story short, my face popped up on there and it got over 100,000 views in the St. Louis and surrounding areas.
Wow.
So
That's good.
the time for me to put my footprint is already it's there, right? People know who I am. The people are associate me with good food, well-known, popular spots in St. Louis. So now it's time to take that momentum and build it for my own, own it for my own. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No
Do
doubt.
more events next year.
No
Do
doubt.
more community outreach programs. Do more traveling with my company and whatnot. You know, and really set myself up for success to get to that food truck, to get to that brick and mortar, to get to the fact of people coming to work for me and now they collecting a check that's recognized by the state and the federal government.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the company's already recognized by the federal government. You know what I mean? That's already down, down pat. But
Right.
to get those grants out there, to get that funding out there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's to the point now where why am I giving my expertise to somebody else with a dollar sign,
Wow.
a cap dollar sign? You get what I'm saying?
Right.
There
Right.
should be no cap.
Right.
There's no cap. The
And
ceiling is the cap. You
hey,
get what I'm
and
saying?
y'all out there listening, man, y'all hear this, man. Y'all hear this, man. You know what I mean? Imma tell you something. If you're listening to the podcast tonight, man, and you saying to yourself, well, I got a business idea. I want to do a business, man, but I don't got the money. I don't know how to do that. Let me tell you something. The business license, man, I'm born and raised out of Kansas City, Missouri. Shout out to the Chiefs, man. You know what I mean? When I first started my first business, man, several years ago, I went down there, man, a business license right now today is still $25, right? So I'm gonna make this idea, I'm gonna make this name, right? So $25 for a license. I think it was $50 for to register with the state, fake Tiss's name, make sure your name ain't somebody else's name. You don't need a
Mhm.
DBA if it's just a name that you came up with. Right. So all these discouraging things that sometimes you hear people say about a business beginning, understand that thought is the first call. The first creation is in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So get it down in your mind and then get it down in your heart, right?
Mhm.
Because you're gonna need your heart in this because it's not easy.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So
oh,
when you get it down in your mind, man, you master the craft that you want to do. You master what you want to do. How do you do that, Coach Bay? How do you do that, Chef O?
mhm.
You study. You make it a
Yeah.
part of every part, right? You become a
Yeah.
master at what you want to do, and then you believe in yourself and you step out there again. It's not easy, right? There will be falls, there will be trips, but there must be get back ups, man. There must
Mhm.
be get back ups, man. And you must believe in this one thing. If you got any type of capital, you making any type of capital, man, and you don't invest in yourself, please don't expect everybody or nobody to invest in you.
Yep.
If you ain't willing to spend your own money on you, man, don't look around for nobody else to spend their money on you. Why
Yep.
would somebody spend their hard-earned money on you in a tough economy right now, man? I'm talking about, and you don't want to spend your hard-earned money on your own self. That don't even make sense. So with that, that's just what it is, man. But so you learning some lessons tonight. You learning to keep your head up, man. Strive, believe in what you want to do. Put one foot in front of the other, man. Shout out to Marcus Mosiah Garvey, man. Who said, "Up, up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will, man." So will things into existence. That means that put one foot in front of the other, put one action in front of the other, one thought in front of the other, and make it happen, man. Make it happen.
Yep.
You
Got to. Got
that's
to.
it. So, Chef, man, you down there in the STL, man. Shout out to the STL, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, I know you born and raised. I know you born and raised in the Chi, man. Shout out to the Chi, man, the Windy City. You know what I mean?
It's sir all day.
All day.
All day.
You know what I'm saying? It's a situation down there, you know what I mean, that the Queen has been following, man, that I'd like to get, a brief your brief take on it. You got it's a young it's Max, really. You got a young lady down there and a young man, 15 was it 15 and 16? 15 and 16 years old who has decided to kill their family, right? She's gonna kill her family for him. He's not
Hey,
gonna beat up his family. You know what I mean? So we talking about
yeah,
two discarded souls, you know what I mean? Young black kids, you know what I mean, who have decided, man, to give their life away, with one of those career-ending, life-ending decisions. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
at 15 and 16 years old, man, those who think that they pressured, man, to make those type of decisions in life, what do you got to say to them?
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. First of all, it wasn't actually in St. Louis. It was like in East St. Louis
Okay.
or
Yeah.
the Illinois side, but close enough to St. Louis.
Right.
And again, I got to the point where I look at world news.
Right.
I look at financial
Right.
reports.
I already
I'm
know.
looking, I'm looking
I
at the
already know.
world because the shit that happens around here is fucking depressing.
Right.
I'm sorry, excuse the language, but it is so damn depressing
Right.
knowing that we live around that type of deal.
Right.
And then it's doesn't make any sense for us as a culture, as black culture, to be, hey, we need to uplift each other. We need to do this. We're not like the white man. And then some craziness like that happens. It's like, damn.
You know what I'm saying? And I talk about that, man. I talk about that, man. Stop allowing people's stereotypes, to define you. Stop allowing and we don't have to point to any nationality specifically, but stop allowing nationalities outside of your own,
Mhm.
to say, I know what they gonna do. I know what he gonna do because 90% of the time that's derogatory. What
Yeah,
they think they know we gonna do.
yeah,
So start paying attention to that, man. Start letting that make you sick. You always talking about, how this and that is making you sick. How Donnie down the street ratted is making you sick. You know what I mean? Well let the fact, man, that this administration, man, is still in your face and you know that everything is screwed up, let that be more motivation, man, to get your life together than Bobby down the street, man. You know what I mean? That you call
right,
ratted,
right.
the block that you don't own nothing on. You know, that's the thing about it. So, uh, hey man, we're gonna let you go, man. Let you get back
Yeah.
to it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And shit, man. We're gonna have to get back on here, man, and really chop it up again, man. We have to really get on here and chop it up again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Most
Yeah,
definitely. Most definitely.
for sure,
Uh,
man. Hey, blessings, man. Blessings, King. And we'll get back
but
with you, man. You know what I mean? We headed down
oh
there
yeah,
through St. Louis too, man. We gonna shoot down there in Mississippi. I'm in the news business. You know what I
that's
mean?
what's up.
So we gonna bring it
Yeah,
to the front.
that's what's up. Yeah, I'm surprisingly enough, I'm going down to Cartagena in 3 weeks.
Damn right. Damn right. Man. Damn right. All right, King. I love you, man. Be safe,
I
man.
love you
Talk
too,
to you
brother.
soon, bro.
All right, cool.
Peace.
Peace. All right, all right.
Bye.
All right.